Church is a great Australian band, and stylistically, they're hard to pin down. Alternative, Jangle-Pop, Neo-Psyche, post-rock, let's not bother. Today we're going to talk about the really cool layering going on in their 1988 breakthrough record, Starfish, between Steve Kilbey's voice and bass, and then the dual guitars of Marty Wilson-Piper and Peter Koppes. You get just some of the best hypnotic, sonic patchwork. This video is sponsored by TrueFire.com, the largest online library of interactive music lessons with over 87,000 lessons taught by legendary players, and also folks like me. I make several courses a year. Now here's the cool thing about TrueFire. If you can't decide on what course you might want to download, you can sign up for their All Access Pass. With that, you can stream any of their 1,500 plus courses, and yeah, you still get access to the on-screen tabs and backing tracks, plus an extra 25% off downloads. Personally, I like to use it as an interview library because they have so many legends there. Check the description box below for the link to get 1 year of all access. By the way, tabs and backing tracks for this video are available a la carte through my website or through Patreon membership. Now let's put things in context a little bit. The Church began in Sydney, Australia in the early 80s. They sent a demo to Chris Kilbey of ATV Northern Songs, and he liked what he heard so much, he signed the band and produced their first album, Of Skins and Heart. Chris Kilbey, by the way, is an important figure in Australian music. He did A&R for early AC/DC and managed seminal Aussie punks, The Saints. The Church's first 2 records did very well and established them as a unique combination of jangly guitars, mystical, poetic imagery, and brooding song structures. Seems like after those first 2 records, there was a rough period where signed in Australia, signed in UK, signed in America, dropped over here, re-signed over there, renegotiated over here. Honestly, I can't really make heads or tails of it, so you can, go research it on your own. We'll just jump ahead a little bit to 1987 with them signing to Arista Records and traveling to Los Angeles to record what would become Starfish, with the team of Waddy Wachtel and Greg Ledagny producing. So that's interesting. We have Waddy Wachtel, and I want to be diplomatic here to his friends, fans, and family who, let's say, despite his legal troubles, is a legendary guitarist and collaborator. He co-wrote Werewolves of London and is responsible for the iconic guitar riff on Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17. So you got one person in the booth who really knows guitar hooks, and on the technical side, you got Greg Ledagny, who amongst other things engineered Jackson Browne's Running on Empty and mixed Toto's biggest hits, Rosanna and Africa. One of the key features of what makes Starfish so engaging is the usage of layered ostinato. And yeah, there's your, your vocabulary words for the day. It's really just a fancy term for everybody playing these little hooky parts that click together rhythmically to create a bigger part. And yeah, sure, this is really a feature of pretty much all popular music, but on Starfish, it's really cool. Marty Wilson-Piper is the only non-Aussie in the group. He's actually a Liverpudlian, which maybe makes him genetically predisposed to Rickenbackers. At the time of recording, he mainly used a 340 and what is definitely not a stock bridge, and for his 12-string work, a 360. Compared to Peter, he has a slightly more aggressive attack, which means his parts tend to have less gain because he's pushing more from his wrist. By comparison, Peter Koppes is usually responsible for the weepy, long melody, so we get this chirping thing from Marty's Rickenbacker, and then this sustaining thing from Peter's Strat. Being that he was doing the long tones, his Strat tended to have more gain and more reverb, although both the guitars have plenty of reverb. It should be noted that sometimes Pete plays hooks also. In the chorus of Reptile, he plays a cool little counter melody, while Marty strums the high triads. Notice how hooky and rhythmic it is. The other thing that adds to this sometimes chaotic layering is what Steve Kilbey does on bass underneath everything. There are times that he's playing something so counterintuitive that I couldn't even really tell you what the chord changes are. The verse of north, south, east, and west, and honestly, it makes sense lyrically that it is this way. What he does on bass plus what Marty is doing on lead, and then what Pete like, and the Ticket to Ride style drum beat. Just listen. There's another cool bass thing I want to point to. In the verse of Under the Milky Way, the guitars actually stay the same the whole time. Well, I think it's a guitar and a mandolin. They're doing, what is it? A minor sus4, F, up to G. Now, when the bass drops in, Steve forces a reharmonization of that. He's playing an A down to an F sharp, down to an F, down to an E. And like that, like we all, I mean, that's maybe their biggest song. And I do think that reharmonization is definitely one of the things that makes it so cool. All right, let's learn some licks. Let's talk a little bit about the sound tools today. This is a Rickenbacker 330 with the stock, quote unquote, high gain single coil pickups. This I borrowed from my buddy Brian. You notice it's one of the ones that doesn't have the lacquered fingerboard. A big thing with Rickenbackers and Gretches is the Jangle-Box compressor, or really any compressor, really helps kind of bring the guitar alive more. I'm using today for overdrive the Boss OD3, and sometimes you'll see me use the small clone chorus. But in Reptile, so what we have here, this very hooky part is basic, based off of, what is that, G minor, F, E flat. So you first have the. Now, the delay, I'm going to turn the delay off for teaching it because I'm not going to be at tempo. It sounds like, to me, a dotted quarter, or maybe a quarter note triplet, like if the tempo is here. But it's also ducking, as in it's louder on those tones than it is the other ones. Now, I will point out, again, the rhythmic nature of that. It's not like. But even that would be kind of hooky. So that's one of the key takeaways that, I mentioned earlier, is that rhythmic, hook-based playing. The chorus is the same chords as the verse, and Marty goes up to little triad shapes. So yeah, good idea to know your triads. And also, this is where the Rickenbacker neck is kind of heartbreaking. I love these guitars so much. They are really narrow up here, though. But yeah, it's just G minor. There's the F. And then you could do the E flat like that. I think I elected to leave some open strings in. He does not. Again, though, that chime is so cool. But yeah, we are, this is the thing with Rickenbackers, is the neck is so narrow right here. Down here, it's the same as like a vintage Fender. It just doesn't widen out as much as other guitars. So there is like a string crowding thing that goes on. Marty is playing less lead guitar in Destination. So what is it coming in as? An A minor? Yeah. So he kind of comes in there. Mostly he's doing a variant of, which against the A is real cool. But also notice, yeah, it's a definitive rhythm. It's not just floating. And honestly, even Peter's parts, even though they're floating, they're still very rhythmic. He keeps that thing going across the F chord. Pretty cool. I mean, that's what it would sound like there. Obviously, the F is way down there. And then the only other thing is, in that cool little interlude, he does a. So it's like a B minor, but he lets the G be part of it. You can hear I got the chorus pedal on now. Bring it forward to a C. and then a big F, and still leave that G in there. Again, definitive rhythms. I know that they toured opening for Tom Verlaine, and yeah, I hear a lot a connection of Television Marquee Moon and Starfish. Like, again, just the guitar parts, the way they so perfectly work together and also so imperfectly work together. Marty's guitar hooks on north, south, east, and west. It's no joke. This is tricky. So it's an E minor. Way up to, you know, the chord that Peter's playing is a C add 9. So Marty goes and grabs 3 of those. Now, this is just a big, you know, pentatonic run. Can I get it so I don't have glare across the guitar? Ooh, there we go. There's a nice shot. With a wild open there. I think I have to play the whole thing together for it to work. Bar it. Yeah, so it's a lot of these. And an open, because that gets you back down to the... And then, and we talked about this in the video, what everybody plays here is chaotic, because Marty's doing a... The 13s are off the beat, the 12s are on the downbeat. I tap my foot, but the mic will pick it up. So, and then combined with the bass and the other guitar part, that is so wild. For Peter's sound, I got the small clone going for some chorus, and yeah, just the Boss OD3 using, you know, a little more gain on it to get more saturation. So Reptile, which we know is G minor, F, and E flat. We're looking for a minor scale. Yeah, Peter knows his scales. So he comes in with a nice half-step bend. Notice how hooky that is. It's not just random. It's very much the notes are where they're supposed to be, so much so that he just copies it an octave higher. And then he starts it again. And then in the chorus of Reptile, when Marty switches to strumming triads, he then is doing a hooky little thing, a little... Notice how hooky that is. Peter's riff on north, south, east, west is like, it's one of the greatest jangle riffs of all time. So it's like an E, and then a minor 9. You know, that classic chord, but he's, you know, he's just doing something so cool with it. I hit an open G so I can get to this A sus4. Yeah! Let's reduce the overdrive for this one. I'll bring it down to like halfway. Super, I mean, that is just one of the coolest little jangle riffs of all time. Now, what he does in the chaotic verse is while Steve and Marty, they got their own thing going on, he's mostly holding it together. okay, that's implying an E minor. This is implying a B minor, but that totally doesn't go. What Steve does ruins that. It's actually, yeah, that's one of the most chaotic. We mentioned it earlier. That's chaos. Like, this is implying an A minor, but like Steve on the bass is like. So Steve is on like an E minor. Well, I don't know. It really doesn't. It doesn't line up, but it goes with the song. Like, that's the vibe. Anyway. Peter's work on Destination is really interesting. So he's got some volume swells in the opening, like a, which is interesting. So there's the one guitar going, you know, it's like that opening guitar, it's just a power chord, but I think they're holding, whoever's doing it, I think it's like a loop, is holding this 7th fret down and only sometimes kind of getting it. So like you get mostly. And then you got the, you know. And then Peter's got the volume swell with the. I get the bar out of the way, but anyway, then it's just, you know, big F power chords. Then what's so cool is when it drops back around to the A minor, that he does like a Dorian on that. And then another one of those little half-step bends. That's from the 9th of the chord, or the 2nd, whatever you want to call it, up to the minor 3rd. And then, yeah, that little interlude, similar to North, South, East, West, is actually kind of chaotic, because Marty's doing that thing, and he's over here going quarter note triplets, and then against that C. Comes around again. And yeah, I mean, I guess the other part is, you know, that other part that comes next is like the. Although that's Marty doing that. Can I get a weird one? Spooky. So in conclusion, if you want to create textures kind of like the church, don't fill the space. Don't just chop wood. Leave holes and play hooky. That's like the 2-sentence version. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. It costs you nothing, and it helps me out a lot when people do that. One more time, how my business works. Patreon is where there's live Q&As, backing tracks, charts, and more. I update that every week, and also I make courses. You can check it all out on my website. As Bill and Ted would say, be excellent to each other. That includes yourself. See you next week.